So, why are we talking about this now? Because things have taken an alarming turn for the worse. The so-called anti-monopoly crackdown has wiped $3 trillion off the market value of the country's biggest companies. What is this new 10-point plan that has shaken many businesses to their core? Which sectors are feeling the brunt? Why is China strangling its booming businesses? Will this backfire for Xi Jinping? And what does this mean for the rest of the world? China's crackdown on big tech, e-commerce, social media, the private education industry, showbiz and celebrity culture has been rapid and confusing. In a country of one-party rule, arbitrary crackdowns have been a part of life. But the recent slew of regulatory overhauls are aimed at cementing control and reshaping society. They are causing an upheaval that has been described by experts as a great leap backwards.
Over the past 9 years, we can see that the once Maoist, far-left political party failed and was replaced by Deng Xiaoping's route afterwards. During the past 9 years, it reversed course from a far-left political party to an authoritarian, utilitarian communist party, but quickly slipped to a nationalist, far-right political party. Now we see that the CCP's biggest issue is that the entire world is suspicious and distrustful of it. Its biggest problem is that it demonstrates to the world that it is a far-right political party, which reminds us of the 1930s when the whole world previously experienced this kind of threat to democracy.
The Young Turks. I probably first came across their channel maybe 7 years ago, maybe. But I know their channel. I was even subbed to it for about 1.5 years. Then I unsubscribed, I think it was November, because after Biden got in, I had no more use for channels like that. Same goes for Benjamin Dixon. Outlived the use I had for him. Jesse Dollemore. And I even unsubscribed from Roland Martin about 3 months ago, and a few other people. But I know the Young Turks channel, and I know what they don't do, except for those rare occasions. Now, about 1 year or so ago, Anna from the Young Turks, she gave some commentary on the police shooting, and I put a comment on that video where Anna said this.
You've been doing this for much longer than me, but I've been working at TYT since 2007, and even today, when we do stories like what happened to, Elijah McClain in Colorado, it still shocks me how unbelievably cruel people can be. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I'm so scared for like my nieces and my nephews. And I don't know. I want to make the world better. Sometimes it feels like we can't, that it's too far gone.
I posted on the comment board. I said, Anna, if you're afraid for your family's life, then why do the Young Turks only report on black people getting murdered by the cops? That's what I said. I said that because white people hurt people. Everybody get it from the cops, and they know this, but they only show black people. And I didn't post that to say that people should only be concerned for their own kind. I posted that to point out that I know that the Young Turks just use black people to further their defund the police agenda and their other communist ideals. I'm pretty sure that her and their partner Jink knows that the cops get away with murdering people of all kinds. But I bring that up as an example of when people use the public's feelings against us, and they operate under the guise of concern for social justice for everybody. Right, we all know people do that, but I just wanted to give an example of it. But remember back when I did a video about this, it's on this channel somewhere.
While 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment thanks to the pandemic, it's likely that most of them have lost their health care, and we've heard stories about the Trump administration spending tens of billions of dollars on funding health care directly to hospitals in order to ensure that COVID-19 treatments, in some cases, are taken care of. What is Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party proposing as a solution? Well, not so good, pretty disastrous. And at the same time, you end up seeing videos like what we're about to show you, where Nancy Pelosi shows off the insane wealthy situation she's dealing with while most people are suffering. This was an actual video, made its rounds online. Let's take a quick look.
Speaker Pelosi, what have you found? What are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate.
Really?
Chocolate candy.
Oh, wow.
And this is something you can get through the mail.
Okay.
Never run out. Can I show
Show
you?
me. Yeah, absolutely. This is the episode of Cribs I never knew I needed. Oh, my. Wow.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here.
Okay, look, I want to preface this by saying I don't hate on people simply because they have means, right? You live a nice life, you worked hard for it, you have 2 Sub-Zero refrigerators where each one costs $12,000. Do you, boo? I'm not hating. However, if you are a lawmaker, if you are part of Democratic leadership at a time when tens of millions of Americans, at some point even more Americans, are going to absolutely suffer, not going to have the health insurance they need, not going to have the means necessary to pay their bills, put a roof over their heads, and stay safe. Putting out videos like that is just so unbelievably tone deaf. I can't even believe it. And she wears the sweater.
We'll get back to that later. Now, some of you likely seen people, some people talking about Alexandria Cortez attending this event a few days ago, and people going in hard too.
That's right. And tell me the story behind this look, behind your look paired together, what white means.
I mean, have you seen the back?
No.
We have a message.
May I? Oh my God, tax the rich. What a model, A.O.C. What? I didn't know you model as well. Wow.
And the excuses that Alexandria's progressive followers is making is outlandish. You know, the progressive party that's trying to make it lawful for adults to fuck children. And other stuff like decriminalize homosexuals who knowingly give people HIV. You know, them. Anna and Jink are progressives.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attended the Met Gala, or Gala, depending on how you pronounce it. I think Gala sounds weird, but nonetheless, she decided to wear a dress that had the words "tax the rich" on it. It was designed by Aurora James, and I thought it was cringe. I'm just keeping it real.
Okay, reality is broken out. We shall discuss. I have different thoughts. Go.
Okay, so all right. I don't like stuff. I don't like dresses, especially that have like political statements on it. Like, it reminded me of that one Trump supporter, Joy Vila, who, by the way, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene took it upon herself to compare Vila to A.O.C. And she's like, oh, Vila's so much better. I love you. Your pro-Trump dresses were awesome. But they weren't. They were tacky and weird. Like, there was the Make America Great Again dress and then the Build the Wall dress. I feel like A.O.C. did this to essentially send a message at an event that's attended by all sorts of like insanely wealthy elite people, right? So it's like, I think that her intent was good.
So, but let me explain. So almost on every ground, actually. So first of all, go like the Met Gala. Would I go if I was invited?
You call it the Gala?
I don't know what I call it. I've never been to a gala or a gala, so I don't really know. But I'll figure it out once I get invited. Okay? I'll settle on what pronunciation. Would I go? I guess, because they invite you, and it's and then your family pressures you. Oh, we're gonna dress up nice, and you should do it. You always look like a bum. This will be a nice moment. My sister loves the Met. She's gonna tell me to go, and I'm gonna go. Right?
I would go out of pure curiosity, and I was like, what even is the Met Gala? Like, what's the point? Like, who wants to see a bunch of rich people dressed in costumes? And then I found out it's literally about costumes.
Oh,
like that is
apparently I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And I read the articles didn't even mention it.
Right.
And I think they assume the sophisticated people knows what happens inside the Met Gala, okay? But I don't. Let's keep it real. But it also gets the message out, and that's why I'm in favor of it.
So, Nancy Pelosi can't have a fancy refrigerator, right? She's flaunting her wealth in front of our faces by showing her ice cream. But one of your progressive leaders, Alexandria Cortez, can attend an event wearing an expensive dress custom made by a rich family where the tickets costed $35,000. Minimum price $35,000. Those were the cheap seats. And to cover Alexandria, you say it was to send a message. Probably like another message like A.O.C. and nobody else at the event were wearing masks, but they scream at other people to wear a mask everywhere.
Deaf. I can't even believe it. And she wears the sweater.
Yeah, just pretend it was just this one incident about a dress. That's what people saying. We hating on her dress. Never mind all the other rich people stuff that Alexandria and her other progressive people do.
Has it been an obscene amount of... Should you have earned that much money?
Yes, I worked very hard for it, and I'm giving it away.
We are living in many ways in a socialist society right now. Problem is, as Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us, we have socialism for the very rich, rugged individualism for the poor.
Senator Sanders has a proposal that would require all large companies to turn over up to 20% of their ownership to employees over time. Is that a good idea?
Absolutely not. I can't think of ways that would make it easier for Donald Trump to get reelected than listening to this conversation. This is ridiculous. We're not going to throw out capitalism. We tried that. Other countries tried that. It was called communism, and it just didn't work.
You know what, Mr. Bloomberg? It wasn't you who made all that money. Maybe your workers played some role in that as well. And it is important that those workers are able to share the benefits. Also, when we have so many people who go to work every day and they feel not good about their jobs, they feel like cogs in a machine. I want workers to be able to sit on corporate boards as well so they can have some say over what happens to their lives. But here is the point. Let's talk about democratic socialism, not communism, Mr. Bloomberg. That's a cheap shot.
Wait a second.
Let me finish. When Donald Trump gets $800 million in tax breaks and subsidies to build luxury condominiums, that's socialism for the rich.
What a wonderful country we have. The best known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that.
Yeah, rich people talking about tax the rich and capitalism is the evil of the world. And Bernie Sanders says, forgive me for that. You heard it? He said, forgive me for my richness. And never mind all the other stuff like the two other progressive leaders, like Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib. Let's just pretend that this is all about people not liking her dress because it was ugly.
So what kind of squad is this? The real estate squad? How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you yet another example of liberal Democrat hypocrisy. And I understand it's kind of redundant to say liberal Democrat hypocrisy. They kind of go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly, hot dogs and hamburgers on Independence Day. I understand, but this story is too good to just dismiss as regular liberal Democrat hypocrisy. You guys may know who the squad is, and if you don't know, I'll give you a brief rundown. The squad are a group of 4 women, super woke, who push really so-called progressive, far leftist ideology. And they include A.O.C, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's the de facto ringleader. You also have Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib. And the squad, who I mentioned earlier, are big proponents of quote-unquote canceling rent. They wanted to pass a bill to legislate to cancel rent nationwide. The CDC thing was not actual legislation. It was just, a decree. They said, okay, no more rent. That expired on July 31st and has not been extended, at least not from the federales. On the state level it has, but not from the federales. However, a lot of states have extended it thanks in large part to people like the squad advocating for canceling rent, no more rent throughout the entirety of this pandemic. and who knows how long it's going to be. However, we got to get to the hypocrisy here. Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley both disclosed that they had like a total of $50,000 between the two of them in rental property income in 2020. Okay, now Ayanna Pressley's husband has a house in Boston that they rent out, and Rashida Tlaib, I think she may own it, or her husband or somebody. They have rental property in Detroit. So you got two big city landlords getting money from their tenants, but they want to tell you to cancel rent. So just a regular everyday normie that does not have the ability to go out there to Washington, D.C. and fundraise and get all this campaign money, you know, allegedly funneled back to them. Here's what Ilhan Omar does. She was married allegedly to her brother for immigration purposes. She was also married through the Islamic faith to her actual husband that she has kids with. She's been divorced from both of those situations. She's not legally married or Islamic tradition married, but she is married because she got married again after those two things were dissolved to this white man by the name of Tim Minette. And the reason why I point out his race is because the squad are some of the same ones that say white men are the biggest terror threat in the U.S. Meanwhile, you laid up with a white man, not just Ilhan Omar, who's from Somalia, but also Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who's Puerto Rican. But I won't go down that road, so I digress. The whole point is that Ilhan Omar is married to this guy by the name of Tim Minette, who was a consultant. And before she got married to him, she was giving him a lot of her campaign money to do just, I'm not sure what kind of tasks she had the guy doing. But according to a report, 70% of her campaign money went to him. Then she gets married to him. So do you think that all of that money is just going toward expenses, is going toward the business, and there's no profit? Is that what you think? But the whole point is they can afford to say, hey, cancel rent and paint landlords as some kind of, you know, some kind of leech upon society, some kind of immoral thing while they collect rent money. Because if the rent gets quote unquote canceled, they have other means to make money.
Been telling other landlords that they don't need to be collecting rent during this pandemic while they themselves been collecting rent. The progressives' claim and mantra has been that the landlords are evil. I've heard this. While their leaders engage in it all. Defund the police while they themselves use the police to protect them, and all kind of other stuff that they do. They engage in it all. There are many, many more examples that reveal the true intentions of this phony anti-establishment movement. And not just from the big shots like the Young Turks and Alexandria and them, nah. Right? Like about 3 months ago, Don Gordito uploaded something about a lady I never heard of. Her name is Nicolul. So I go looking around and I watched a few videos about her. And she's basically one of these anti-capitalist people who they're saying bought a $2 million apartment. So apparently she was on this campaign about how evil rich people are, but then she turns around and flaunts an apartment in the face of the people who gave her that money because they believed that she was sincere. But she went straight out and did what rich people are known to do. But the videos I watched on her, some were her compadres making excuses for her, and the excuses I heard from Nicolo's fellow fake anti-capitalists were ridiculous. Like this one dude, right? But before I play it for you, before I play you one of these excuses, let me read you one of the excuses somebody made on the comment board of the excuse maker, and there are a lot of these. Somebody named Exaro says, capitalists have done a brilliant job at convincing the public that millionaires are just as rich as billionaires. See that? In other words, he was saying, it's not like she's a billionaire, leave her alone. But here, let me read you another one. Comments like the one I just read were all over the place, but everybody wasn't going for it though on this comment board. Brett Boggs, he says, he was talking about the guy, the clip I'm about to play. Brett Boggs, he says, the mental gymnastics this guy does is insane. 100% deserves a gold medal. Before I play this clip, There's a word to describe what this dude did to cover for his fake anti-establishment buddy. And he got on the Bernie Sanders shirt. I forget what the word is, but there is a word for it. But what he did is like, I'm looking at somebody, maybe a relative or somebody, stuffing their face, and I say, hey, you know, maybe you shouldn't be eating like that. And they say, oh, so I'm not supposed to eat? What do you want me to do? Starve to death? I'm a human being supposed to eat food. You know that, right? I forget what that's called.
Oh, that's it. Oh, dude, L's all around. Imagine, oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, fuck. Imagine paying $2 million for anything in Dallas and it's not a fucking compound. No, there's no way this is actually $2 million. I don't believe that. I think that's a clickbait. This is like, I feel like this is in Texas. You could get a $2,000 a month apartment.
And you guys can follow me to the east wing of the house, of course. We're gonna pass by our little walking area here, living room area. All right, we're gonna come into my bedroom. All right, so first here we have...
Okay, the apartment it looks a lot more spacious when you get to the bedroom. Maybe that's why it's expensive, because it's like a really nice view and shit like that. People care about stuff like that. I don't give a fuck. So, bro, I swear to God, people are trying to make this into a thing. Now that I've actually watched the video, I'm like, really? This is what you're mad that she like, wait, did she buy this apartment? Like, you should be laughing that if she actually bought this for $2 million, you should be laughing at the fact that she made such a terrible purchase. If she actually bought it for $2 million. Imagine having shelter while simultaneously being a, like, you know, social democrat or democratic socialist. Like, obviously you're fucking a hypocrite. Of course, none of the people criticizing her have the deed to a factory or own capital beyond a 1991 Honda Civic that was a hand-me-down from their parents, and that's not private. That's just personal property. It's the asset that you have. Barely an asset, really. So you are the hypocrites with that same metric or with that same kind of energy that you would put into defending capitalism. There's a pretty wide gap between living in filth and buying a supposed $2 million apartment and making a YouTube video about it. Why? Why not? Why? This is like not even a fucking aggressive apartment. This is like a nice apartment. Like what's the level of wealth where it's unacceptable for you to be like living in a situation? Like what should someone who's a leftist in their living situation look like?
And then this is the bathroom. It has a view of how high we are, because it reminds me that we're one earthquake away from death.
This likes her because she's a hypocrite for having money and also being a Bernie supporter? Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I mean, I do understand. Of course, if you say you've ever liked Bernie Sanders, that means you have to live in filth.
See? Oh, she's supposed to live in filth? He said because they're anti-capitalist, that don't mean that they're supposed to live in filth. Right? Oh, what? Because she's anti-capitalist, that means she's supposed to get her clothes from the Goodwill and eat out of trash dumpsters? I forget what the word is for that he just did. It's a word for it, but I forget what it's called. But he know damn well people attacking, the people that are attacking this lady are pointing out the hypocrisy and contradiction. Nobody is suggesting that you need to live in the gutter, and he know that. But just like Anna, he got to perform some mental gymnastics to try to wiggle out of it. Let's listen to what this dude had to say, and this is the point I've made many, many times.
Hi, XQZ, thanks again.
And I think we can start off with the kitchen. I think I love the kitchen the second most, aside from my office.
How is
I have
the new
a big
place?
little island, which I've never had an island before, so this is really awesome. We have the chairs, so I don't have to actually buy a table to eat on.
39,000 dislikes, dude!
And you guys can follow me to the east wing of the house, of course. We're gonna pass by our little walking area here, living.
Because she has tax the rich.
This is my brother's nest over here. He's just staying here for a while. This is not normally here. Okay, I just want to
I mean, okay. Well, walk me. Okay, fuck, guys. I'm on nobody's side. I don't give a fuck about any of this. This is kind of trash. But I'm confused. If you say tax, I'm not gonna get into this.
A couch will be here soon. We have a bean bag where my.
She said tax the rich, but move somewhere with less taxes. Really?
My brother also nests and plays video games. For now.
Oh, I just mean that. I'm done. I'm done. This is so bad. Dude, No, if you advocate for, guys, even the ones that are going to make the new laws or enforce them or make them pass or present them, these guys are all. They're all going to be rich in the first place. So what are they supposed to do? Oh, because you're just flexing it. Okay, makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The rich will continue to be rich and will get richer, while they tell their followers that their mission is equality and equity for the common folk. What that dude just said is what everybody should understand. I hear a lot of people that keep saying capitalism like capitalism is the problem here. In this capitalistic society, I hear a lot of that. But yeah, let's just make it into a thing about how Nicolul merely made a bad purchase. Never mind the point about her presenting herself as anti-money. Let's just look at how she could have got a better deal. Or like Bernie, yeah, I'm a rich hypocrite, but let's focus on how I asked people to forgive me. Or like Anna and Jink, let's never mind the point that people are making because, hey, it was just a costume party. And for me, this is not about pointing out hypocrisy or contradiction. Those things are present, yeah, but I don't care about that. Because hypocrisy and contradiction are like minute and minuscule. It really don't mean nothing. Because I want to point out that this anti-establishment, anti-capitalism establishment mantra is not for the sake of our best interest. It's a lie. And they're using people's feelings about being in poverty or the inequity in society to perpetuate this lie. Now, one of the biggest lies in this anti-capitalism fraud is that this couple right here with the hot dog cart are not capitalists engaging in capitalism. Why? Well, because they're not Oscar Mayer. They don't have pig farms with millions of pigs and distribution plants. The big lie is that capitalism and capitalists can only be capitalism and capitalists if it's mega size. And that lie, this is how capitalists get to look people straight in the face with a straight face and tell them that capitalism is the problem. Look at the websites of people like the Young Turks. They're selling everything, masks, t-shirts, and all kind of pandemic stuff related to the pandemic, but they attack companies that profit off this bug getting let out on us.
It reminds us of the 1930s when the whole world previously experienced this kind of threat to democracy.
This is the 1 billion plus user payment app Alipay. Owned by Jack Ma's Ant Group, it was launched in 2004. Though it is one of the many Chinese apps that has been banned in India, Alipay created a digital revolution of sorts in China and other Asian countries. Now, Chinese regulators have ordered sweeping changes to the country's biggest payment app. Beijing plans to break up Alipay and create a separate app for the fintech giants' loans and credit businesses. It's a classic example of Xi Jinping's attempt to rein in the exponential growth of its tech giants. According to reports, Ant Group will turn over user data, underpinning loan decisions to a new credit scoring joint venture that will be partly state-owned. With this move, state-backed firms are set to take a sizable stake in Ant's credit scoring joint venture. Clearly, Beijing's ruthless dismemberment of Jack Ma's corporate empire continues. Not too long ago, Jack Ma was the richest man in China. the creator of Alibaba, China's largest tech company, and the Ant Group, the largest fintech company in the world. Alibaba was worth more than any US company except for Google, Apple, and Amazon. Between October 2020 and January 2021, reports of Jack Ma's disappearance from public life made headlines across the globe. His disappearance was said to have been connected to a speech given at the annual People's Bank of China Financial Markets Forum, in which the outspoken billionaire criticized China's regulators and banks and accused them of stifling innovation.
So many pickpockets today in
November 2020, Ma was set to launch the biggest IPO in human history. Regulators pulled the plug on the record $37 billion stock market launch. Beijing killed the deal. Ever since the suspension of Ant Group's IPO, Beijing has embarked on an unprecedented clampdown of its technology sector. It claims these are aimed at breaking monopolies and strengthening data security. Ant Group, that had reached private sector superpower status, was forced to restructure. Jack Ma has all but disappeared from public view. Beijing has taught him a lesson.
And no matter what kind of system it is, socialist, communist, republic, or whatever, it would never get rid of the dynamics that we describe as rich, poor, and middle class. Even the poorest of the poor still have a poor, rich, and middle class even amongst themselves. That even goes on in jail. And yeah, I've been there more than a few times, and we engage in classism even behind bars. So this anti-capitalism thing might even go against human nature. And even go against nature. Because animals out in the wild establish themselves over one another.
Of course, none of the people criticizing her have the deed to a factory or own capital beyond a 1991 Honda Civic that was a hand-me-down from their parents, and that's not private. That's just personal property. It's an asset that you have. Barely an asset, really.
About the hot dogs. Back to that. Not being Oscar Mayer. Heard how he said, it's not like you own the deed to a factory. That's what I mean about the lie that capitalism and capitalist could only mean that someone or something is mega-sized. Like some months ago. Some of y'all remember some months ago when I said that line of reasoning is like saying that this baby is not an elephant because it's not as big as this one. And the insult to people's intelligence, he said, that's not personal property, it's private property.
Beyond a 1991 Honda Civic that was a hand-me-down from their parents, and that's not private. That's just personal property. It's an asset that you have. Barely an asset, really.
Private property ain't personal property. That's how fake this entire thing is. It's just private property, not personal property.
One of my viewers wanted me to do a video on why China is growing economically and doing better than the West in recent years in both online and retailers. Now, the reason why China's economy is so strong, ironically, is due to America itself. Unfortunately, many of the manufacturers here in America, they got extremely greedy, and because they got greedy, they did not want to go out here and give union workers the raises that they demanded, and they did not want to give them the safer working conditions they wanted to have in the workplace. So many of your manufacturers here in America, they did not want to go out here and work with American unions, and they did not want to pay the high wages that American workers were receiving at the time, because a kid out of high school at 18 years old up until about the late 80s or early 90s when the 1991 recession hit could easily make $20 an hour just out of high school at one of these factories, and they could practically go out here and buy a home by the time they turned 22 years old. So these jobs paid exceptionally well. So manufacturing made for a very strong American economy. Unfortunately, many in America at the top, they were just not thinking about the big picture. All they were upset about were the wages that they were paying these union workers, and they wanted to find a way to get cheaper labor. Now, they first tried to get cheaper labor by recruiting women into the workplace, but still the costs were still too high for many of these manufacturers. So many of these manufacturers of your cars, your computers, your furniture, and many other durable goods, what they wanted to do was find a way to get the cheapest labor, and the cheapest way to get cheap labor was to go out here and find workers from overseas. But in order to get those workers from overseas, what they needed to do was make a deal with the government. And your communist government of China wanted to go out here and get a deal in order to build their economy. So this is why Richard Nixon made this deal. And as a result of him making that deal, we saw many manufacturers of tangible and durable goods take their plants out of the United States as the United States decided to transition from a manufacturing-based economy to a service and consumer-based economy. Now, the goal here was to make the United States a place where the consumers would buy the imported goods, and the wealthy at the top would go out here and profit at the expense of the cheap labor that they got from those people overseas. So they wanted to go out here and erode the whole manufacturing base here in America by laying off almost all of the union workers, and then go out here and hire the cheap Chinese labor for pennies on the dollar compared to the starting salary of $20 an hour for an American worker, and for those who are in the skilled trades making $30, $45, and even $50 an hour starting salary. So they didn't want to pay the American worker, they wanted to pay the Chinese worker, who was a part of the People's Republic of China, a lower wage, and that's why China's economy wound up growing at the expense of the American economy. But this is all due to the greed of a handful of executives at the top who did not want to go out here and pay the American worker, and they did not want to invest in the American worker. And because they didn't want to invest in the American worker, what they didn't see was the damage that they were doing to America's economy. And this is why China's economy is growing exponentially, because these corporations went out here and invested in the Chinese worker, paying him that wage that is lower than the American worker, getting them to manufacture the tangible and durable goods for them, and then going out here shipping them overseas.
That was Shawn James right there. Now, I don't consider him to be, part of the weirdos I've been talking about, but his mindset is what these people play on. Shawn is essentially saying that companies should make sure that we don't ever have a need in the world. But he described it as companies not wanting to work with unions and didn't want to invest in workers. But his video was actually saying that companies should volunteer to put themselves out of business, taking care of its employees' every need in life. Unions are good, but a lot of times they're extortioners that force businesses out of here. That mindset, Shawn's mindset, is where all control over industry ultimately ends up in the hands of the government. And y'all got to go see what the government is doing over there in China. All them big business tycoons over there, I mean, they're basically owners in name only. Their businesses have basically been confiscated under the guise of distributing the wealth to the poor. And if I don't forget, I'll put the link to it in the description box to what I'm talking about. And that's going on in various places in the world, and they want to do that here too. So people really need to stop assisting them with the anti-capitalism propaganda. Right? Now let me show you a very dangerous mindset that's connected to this anti-establishment talk. This dude goes by the name of Crimson, and he was really shocked that somebody like myself could see that his ideals is ultimately for the government to control everything. But of course, he operates, like the others, he operates under the guise of we need a living wage and corporate America and capitalism is the evil on the earth and workers need to not have bills and we need free health care and free education and the rest of that. And he didn't know that I could see that it's really Maoism that he was talking about. That's why he over there on his channel crying about me. I saw a few minutes of his tears today about me.
There we go. This is how the media companies were and how they are now. Now, if you actually take a look at it, let me just make it bigger. The media companies, there were in 1983, 90% of the media was owned by 50 companies. In 2011, 90% were controlled by 6 companies. 6 companies. GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Now we know that's actually gotten a little bit smaller because now Disney owns Fox, and I think Viacom owns CBS. So that's actually gotten smaller. And the sad part about it is that feeds into people wanting to look in other places, look in other areas to try to find their news, to find their opinions. And you're getting this. Now, I'm not to say that it's not to say that Disney Fox Studios. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't look outside of the mainstream media to find information. I'm not a news program. I'm commentary. But there's some great news companies outside of the mainstream media. But you have to know how to vet this. And that's the thing. A lot of people don't know how to vet information. And it's leading to awkward, if any, discussions around those holiday dinner tables. I don't know. It's time to stop trying to get our news sources from different places and leading to different realities. But what can you do?
Danger. Did you hear what he said? You heard him. Did you hear what he said? We should only have options provided to us by mainstream media to choose from. But this is the anti-corporate America guy. And it's not just him. All of them are like that. They speak all this anti-establishment talk, but when you listen close to them and you look at their actions, they want establishment to control over people. This is what all the censorship is about. That mindset that you heard from Crimson. Thought police that makes sure that we can only think as we're told to think. They're even concerned with what people talk about at their dinner tables. You heard him. And he said that it's sad that people got options to look outside of mainstream for news. He was propping up the corporations that he says he's against in that video. And look at the apps that's on the screen. He uses those to promote himself. All corporate capitalist establishment companies. I'm about to get out of here after this next clip I'm going to play. And on the comment board of this video, there was a dude named Charles. And this is what he said in response to the video. I'm going to show you the clip in a second. But this is what he posted on the comment board. He said, capitalism kills, and unchecked capitalism kills quickly.
Fresh produce like vegetables and fruit will definitely have a difference, not just in price, but in the freshness. A lot of things are frozen, thawed, frozen again, and then thawed again when they are put on the shelf. It affects, I would say, more than half of the people who live in Nunavut, not just Inuit or Indigenous people, but the entire population, because you don't have enough money for rent or to eat properly. No one's overseeing how much they're actually passing on the savings and how much they're keeping themselves. So it's really entirely up to the company how they're going to distribute that.
Me and Charles went back and forth on the comment board, and a few other people joined in with him on his side. And what they were doing, because they couldn't reasonably blame capitalism for what humans are known to do, no matter what society, what they did instead was try to tug on my heartstrings by talking about how many poor people there are and homelessness and how Elon Musk can make $16 million a day. So I eventually asked him, because we were going back and forth for a minute, I eventually asked him, did Jeffrey Dahmer murder and eat those people because of capitalism or because he was a capitalist? And Charles and a few others pretended to not know what I was saying. One person named Priscilla asked me, what does Jeffrey Dahmer have to do with capitalism? And I told her that I don't recall bringing him up because of capitalism. But anyway, these people were just playing dumb. Just like Crimson and the rest do when I point out that people will fuck people and will continue to do it even if you get rid of capitalism. People will continue to do that if you get rid of capitalism or not.